Our leaders today, this is what they will say. I can neither confirm or deny. I can neither confirm or deny. I can neither confirm or deny. What's up with their lives?
Flying high above the planet Earth, this is the Cosmic News Weekly with Dirk Bradshaw. I am Dirk Bradshaw, and this week, 3 doomsaying experts who foresee economic devastation ahead. Behind the mainstream Wall Street happy talk about more stable markets and improving economy are grim warnings of tough times ahead from a small group of doomsayers who warn that the worst of our financial crisis is still to come. Harry Dent, author of the new book, The Great Crash Ahead, says another stock market crash is coming due to a bad ending to the global debt bubble. He has pulled back on his earlier prediction of a crash in 2012 as central banks around the world have been flooding markets with money, giving stocks an artificial short-term boost. But a crash is a-coming in 2013 or 2014, he warns. This will be a repeat of 2008-2009, only bigger when it finally hits, Dent told USA Today. Gerald Cayente Salente, a trend forecaster at the Trends Research Institute, says America should brace themselves for an economic 9/11 due to policymakers' inability to solve the world's financial and economic woes. The coming meltdown, he predicts, will lead to a growing social unrest and anti-government sentiments, a U.S. dollar with far less purchasing power, and more people out of work. Salente won't rule out another financial panic that could spark enough fear to cause a run on the nation's banks by depositors. That risk could cause the government to invoke economic martial law and call a bank holiday and close banks as it did during the Great Depression. We see some kind of threat of that magnitude, Salente, publisher of the Trends Journal newsletter, warned in an interview. And finally, Robert Prechter, author of Conquest the Crash, first published in 2002 and updated in 2009, is still bearish. He says today's economy has similarities to the Great Depression and warns that 1930s-style deflation is still poised to cause financial havoc. Prechter predicts that the major U.S. stock indexes such as the Dow Jones Industrial and Standard & Poor 500 will plunge below their bear market lows hit in March 2009 during the last financial crisis. The brief recovery will fail as it did in the 1930s, he warns. Do you guys remember that story about the physicist a couple years ago who shocked the scientific world by claiming to have shown particles could move faster than the speed of light? Well, they have gone on to admit that it was a huge mistake due to a faulty wire connection. It was Albert Einstein who proposed more than 100 years ago that nothing could travel faster than the speed of light. Einstein's theory of special relativity, proposed in 1905, states that nothing in the universe can travel faster than the speed of light in a vacuum. But researchers at the CERN lab near Geneva claimed that they had recorded neutrinos, a type of tiny particle, traveling faster than the barrier of 186,282 miles per second. Well, now it seems Einstein's reputation has been restored after a source close to the experiment told the U.S. journal Science Insider that a bad connection between a GPS unit and a computer may be to blame. Scientists at CERN claimed that the neutrinos traveled 60 nanoseconds earlier than the 2.3 milliseconds taken by light. The report in the Science Insider said that a 60 nanosecond discrepancy appears to come from a bad connection between a fiber optic cable that connects the GPS receiver used to correct the timing of the neutrino's flight and electronic card in a computer. After tightening the connection and then measuring the time it takes data to travel the length of the fiber, researchers found that the data arrived 60 nanoseconds earlier than assumed. Since this time is subtracted from the overall time of flight, it appears to explain the early arrival of the neutrinos. New data, however, will be needed to confirm this hypothesis. And finally, one of the biggest debates in archaeology is what destroyed the extensive, highly advanced Mayan civilization 1,000 years ago. It's known that the empire went through a long collapse from roughly 800 to 1,000, leaving behind a network of pyramids and monumental architecture in the Yucatan jungles. But why? We have our educated guesses, and one of the most widely believed theories is that some kind of climate catastrophe drove the Maya to abandon their city in droves. What really happened to the Maya civilization? What really destroyed the Maya civilization? Were the Maya brought down by a small shift in climate, or were there complicated political issues involved as well? Archaeologists explain that the Maya were at war for much of the collapse period, and indeed had enormous wars throughout much of their history. So, it wasn't simply a mild drought that destroyed the empire, but that the empire also destroyed itself, the way many great European and Asian powers have, by waging war until their resources were depleted and no willing soldiers were left. The Maya probably weren't just passive victims of climate change. They were a powerful polity spread across huge swaths of the Yucatan. They had advanced architectural techniques, and new studies of the region around Maya Center Caracol reveal that they remolded much of the land in the area to make way for farms, roads, and homes. Given their technological sophistication, it's possible that the Mayans might have survived the drought if it hadn't been a war taxing their resources. In other words, the Mayan Empire's demise may have resulted from a mix of social and environmental factors, and would have been far more complex than mere food shortages due to drought. Well, that's all she wrote for this week. I see the fat lady. She's getting off the stage. She's looking right at me. I need to go put her to bed. For the Cosmic News Weekly, I'm Dirk Bradshaw. I return you now to Joshua Poet and First Contact.